It was graduation night in Springfield, Missouri. A night filled with laughter, parties, and dreams of the future. But by morning, 3 women, a mother, her daughter, and her daughter's best friend, had vanished from their own home. Their purses, their cars, even the family dog were left behind, but they were gone. And for more than 30 years, no one has been able to answer the question, what happened to the Springfield Three? It was June 6, 1992, a warm Saturday night in Springfield, Missouri. The kind of night where families left their porch lights glowing, where laughter floated from backyards, and where hope hung thick in the summer air. For 2 young women, it was the night they had been waiting for their entire lives. High school, graduation. 18-year-old Stacy McCall had spent the day surrounded by friends and family, wearing her cap and gown with a shy but glowing smile. She was soft-spoken, gentle, and kind, the kind of girl everyone described as sweet to the bone. That night, her parents hugged her proudly, believing their daughter's future stretched bright and limitless ahead. 19-year-old Suzanne. Suzie Streeter was bold where Stacy was quiet. Blonde, sharp-witted, and a little rebellious, she had a fiery personality that made her stand out. Suzie's life hadn't always been easy, but she carried herself with confidence. She had plans, dreams, a whole life still waiting to be lived, and watching her graduate, with pride in her eyes, was Suzie's mother, 47-year-old Sherrill Levitt. Sherrill had raised her daughter with strength and love, working long days as a respected hairdresser. Friends remembered her as warm, dependable, and deeply caring. She had just settled into her new house on East Delmer Street, a fresh chapter for herself and her daughter. That house, cozy, small, and welcoming, should have been a place of safety. Instead, it would become the center of one of the darkest mysteries in American history. After the graduation ceremony, the girls joined classmates to celebrate. Music, laughter, and teenage joy filled the night. They hopped from one gathering to another, carefree and excited. At first, they planned to spend the night at a friend's house, then maybe a hotel. The plans shifted, changed, wavered, just like any group of teenagers after a big night. By the early hours of June 7th, the decision was made. Stacy and Suzie would go back to Suzie's home, where Sherrill was already waiting. It seemed safe, simple, convenient. 3 women, mother, daughter, and friend, together in the same house, ending a long day with the comfort of sleep. No one could have imagined those would be the last steps they would ever take. The next morning, when friends and family began calling, no one answered. At first, it seemed like nothing unusual. Teenagers sleep late. Phones get ignored. But soon, unease crept in. Calls kept ringing with no reply. By midday, friends decided to stop by the house. That's when unease turned to dread. All 3 cars were parked neatly outside. Stacy's car, Suzie's car, Sherrill's car, untouched. Inside the home, purses sat on the floor. Money, cigarettes, identification, everything a woman would normally take with her if she left the house. The beds looked slept in. The television was still on, humming softly into the silence. The family dog, a Yorkshire Terrier named Cinnamon, barked anxiously as if trying to tell someone what had happened, and yet, no sign of the 3 women. One detail stood out immediately: the porch light. It had been shattered, broken glass scattered across the front steps. Was it an accident? Or did someone smash it deliberately, plunging the entryway into darkness so no one outside could see what was happening inside? Then came the most chilling detail of all. On the answering machine was a voicemail, described by one of the friends as strange and disturbing. No one knows what it said, because before investigators could save it, the message was accidentally erased. A clue that might have revealed everything. Gone forever, and there was another mistake. Instead of treating the home as a potential crime scene, friends, neighbors, and loved ones walked in and out freely. They picked up objects, tidied things, even wiped surfaces. By the time police were finally called, the house was contaminated beyond repair. Every fingerprint, every clue, every chance to catch the truth, lost. From that very first day, the case was already slipping away. 3 women had vanished without warning, leaving behind their cars, their purses, their belongings, and their lives. Not a single neighbor reported hearing the scream. No one saw a struggle. No one noticed anything unusual that night. It was as if the 3 women had been erased in silence. And so the questions began. Who broke the light? Who left that voicemail? How can 3 people disappear from a house without leaving behind even a trace of resistance? It should have been a weekend of celebration, a moment of joy at the end of high school. Instead, Springfield woke up to a nightmare. A mother, her daughter, and a friend gone. Vanished into the night, and the city would never be the same. Again. The morning of June 7, 1992, began quietly in Springfield. The sun rose over the small Missouri town, warming the streets, lighting up the tidy neighborhoods, and casting soft shadows across East Delmer Street. For most families, it was just another summer morning. But at the Levitt home, something was deeply, unnervingly wrong. When friends arrived, they expected to find Stacy and Suzie tired from the night before, maybe still asleep, maybe laughing about graduation parties that had stretched too late. Instead, they found silence. No voices, no footsteps, no trace of the 3 women who should have been there. The cars parked neatly outside gave a strange kind of reassurance at first. Stacy's Toyota Corolla, Suzie's red Ford Escort, Sherrill's Chevrolet Corsica, none of them had moved. None of them had been touched. And yet, the very fact that they were all still there only deepened the mystery. If the women hadn't left in their cars, then where were they? Inside, the house looked ordinary, too ordinary. Purses were lined up as if waiting to be picked up. On the way out, cash, driver's licenses, cigarettes, all untouched. The beds looked slept in. The TV was left on, humming quietly in the living room. Cinnamon, the small dog, barked anxiously, circling the house. To those who loved Sherrill, Suzie, and Stacy, it felt as though the 3 had simply stepped out for a moment and would be back any second. But every second passed with no sign of them. Then, a discovery that would haunt this case forever. The porch light. Its glass was shattered, tiny shards scattered across the front steps. Had someone smashed it deliberately? Was it broken during a struggle? Or was it just a coincidence? No one knew, and the detail was never fully explained. Even more chilling was the answering machine. Sometime during the night, a voicemail had been left, a strange, disturbing message. Friends who heard it later said it felt important, maybe even vital. But before police could save it, the message was erased. Whether by accident or by panic, it vanished, taking with it what could have been the single most important clue in the case. And there was another problem. The house was not sealed off, no crime scene tape, no immediate lockdown. Instead, people walked in and out freely, friends, neighbors, even relatives. They tidied things up, picked up objects, tried to make sense of what they were seeing. In doing so, they destroyed what might have been critical forensic evidence. Fingerprints smudged, footprints covered, clues erased. By the time investigators officially took over, the home had been contaminated beyond repair. The timeline of that night was already fragile. Now it was fractured completely. Neighbors later said they had heard nothing unusual, no screams, no loud noises, no cars speeding away. A few mentioned the sound of a dog barking late at night, but nothing more. It was as if 3 women had been lifted out of the world without a sound. The haunting stillness of the house told its own story. 3 cars waiting, 3 purses untouched, a shattered light, a deleted message, and silence, endless silence. For the families, hope battled fear. Maybe they had gone on a spontaneous trip. Maybe they'd left to run an errand. But deep down, everyone felt the same dread. Something terrible had happened. Something that left no trace, no explanation. Something that took not 1 life, but 3. And as the first official reports were filed, police faced a chilling question. If 3 women could vanish from their own home, leaving behind everything they owned, then who, or what, had come for them that night? By the evening of June 7th, 1992, fear had already spread through Springfield. The story of 3 missing women, a mother, her daughter, and her daughter's best friend, traveled quickly. Neighbors whispered across fences. Families locked their doors. Police officers, unsure of what they were facing, prepared for what could become one of the largest investigations in Missouri's history. At first, detectives hoped the women might return on their own. Perhaps they had gone on a short trip. Perhaps they had run into car trouble. Perhaps it was all just a misunderstanding. But as hours became days, that fragile hope dissolved. It was no longer a missing persons case. It was something darker. Something unthinkable. The police began piecing together the last known movements of Stacy and Suzie on graduation night. They tracked the parties, interviewed friends, and built a rough timeline. Sometime after 2 a.m., the girls returned to Suzie's house. By 8 a.m. the next morning, they were gone. The window of disappearance was frighteningly small. Investigators questioned everyone close to the women. Friends, classmates, co-workers, boyfriends. They wanted to know, who would have wanted to harm them? Did someone follow them home from the parties? Did someone already know where they would be that night? Suspicion fell briefly on the men who had been at the graduation parties. 1 or 2 seemed uneasy under questioning, but there was no hard evidence against them. Police combed through alibis, checking times, verifying stories. Again and again, they ran into walls. One name kept surfacing, a man named Robert Craig Cox, a convicted kidnapper and suspected murderer. Cox had been in Springfield at the time of the disappearances. His background was terrifying. Years earlier, in Florida, he had been convicted of brutally murdering a woman, only to have the conviction overturned on appeal. He was later arrested for kidnapping another woman at gunpoint. In 1992, he was living less than 2 miles from the Levitt home. Cox was questioned. He denied involvement. Later, years after the crime, he gave chilling interviews suggesting he knew what had happened to the Springfield Three. He even claimed the women were dead, buried somewhere in Springfield. But when pressed for details, he refused to say more. Was it truth? Was it taunting? Or was it just a man feeding off the fear and mystery? Police could never prove his involvement. Meanwhile, the families were living a nightmare. Day after day, they waited by the phone, hoping for a call, a ransom demand, any sign that the women were alive. But the calls never came. The silence was endless. Tips flooded in from the public. Some claimed the women had been seen in other states. Others said they had been abducted into trafficking rings. Psychics offered visions, describing graveyards, barns, hidden wells. Each lead was checked. Each lead went nowhere. The investigation grew larger. Maps were spread across desks. Detectives worked long nights. Yet with every hour, the trail grew colder. And in the heart of Springfield, fear deepened. This wasn't just about 3 missing women anymore. It was about safety. About the terrifying possibility that whoever had done this was still out there, watching, waiting, maybe ready to strike again. The unanswered questions piled higher. Why was the porch light smashed? Who left the strange voicemail? How could 3 women vanish from a house filled with belongings, without leaving behind a single drop of blood, a single footprint, a single trace of struggle? Theories clashed, suspects slipped through the cracks, and evidence crumbled. The police had leads, but no answers, and as summer turned to fall, Springfield was left haunted by the same chilling question. Was this the work of someone they knew, or a stranger who walked into the night and carried 3 lives away? As weeks turned into months, the Springfield Three became more than just a local story. It became a mystery that gripped the entire state of Missouri and beyond. People wanted answers, but with every dead end, only theories remained. The first theory was the most terrifying and the most personal. Someone they knew. Could a family friend, a trusted neighbor, or even someone close to Stacy, Suzie, or Sherrill have taken them? Investigators asked themselves, why was there no forced entry? The doors weren't broken, the windows weren't smashed. If the women had simply opened the door, it meant they trusted whoever was on the other side. That possibility cast a dark shadow over the people closest to them, friends, classmates, even boyfriends. Detectives looked hard at alibis, retraced phone calls, and checked every movement of those who knew the women. But time and again, the trail came up cold. The second theory was just as chilling, a random intruder. Some believed that the smashed porch light was no accident. It was deliberate. Whoever was out there that night wanted the house in darkness, hidden from the street. Did someone watch the women arrive home in the early hours of the morning? Did they wait for the perfect moment to strike? If it was a stranger, then it meant the crime was one of pure opportunity, horrifying, but possible. Then, there was the theory of abduction and trafficking. Springfield sits at a crossroads of major highways, a place where someone could easily snatch victims and vanish into the night, never to be seen again. In the 1990s, trafficking rings were less understood, but investigators did consider it. Could the 3 women have been taken, moved out of state, and hidden away? Some tipsters swore they had seen women resembling Suzie and Stacy in different parts of the country. None of those leads ever proved true. And then there was the serial killer angle. Some pointed to the fact that Robert Craig Cox, the convicted kidnapper, was nearby. Others noted similarities between the Springfield Three case and other disappearances across the Midwest. Could one predator have been responsible for multiple crimes? Police investigated known offenders, searched for patterns, compared details. But every time, evidence slipped through their fingers. Even within Springfield, the theories grew stranger. Some believed the women had been buried in secret locations, under driveways, in rural fields, even beneath local hospitals. Over the years, ground-penetrating radar was used in several searches. Disturbing anomalies were sometimes found, but never bodies. Never proof. And then there was the theory that shook everyone: the deleted voicemail. What if that message had held the answer, a threat, a name, a clue? The fact that it was erased, gone forever, left a hole in the investigation that has never been filled. Each theory was more haunting than the last. Each possibility tore at the families who just wanted answers. And yet, through it all, the same chilling reality remained: no evidence, no bodies, no suspects arrested. Just silence. For the people of Springfield, life moved forward, but it never returned to normal. Parents looked at their daughters with new fear. Locks were changed, curtains were drawn. A quiet town was living in the shadow of a secret no one could uncover. And as the years passed, one painful question only grew louder: were the Springfield Three victims of someone they knew, or of someone who slipped in from the night and disappeared just as quickly? In the weeks and months after the disappearance, Springfield became a city living on edge. Flyers with the faces of Sherrill Levitt, Suzie Streeter, and Stacy McCall were everywhere, taped to lampposts, pinned on grocery store bulletin boards, handed out in church parking lots. Three smiling faces staring back, asking for help. But no answers came. The phone at the police department never stopped ringing. Every day, new tips poured in. A neighbor swore they had seen a strange car circling the street that night. A trucker reported picking up hitchhikers who looked just like the girls. A waitress in another state insisted she had served them breakfast days later. But each tip ended the same way: investigated, documented, and dismissed. The most painful leads came from people claiming psychic visions. Some described shallow graves in the woods. Others saw barns, rivers, abandoned houses. Detectives checked many of these locations, desperate not to miss anything. Time and resources were wasted. Families clung to hope with every call, only to have it crushed again and again. Then came rumors. Whispers that the women had been buried under a local hospital parking garage during construction. In 2007, investigators even used ground-penetrating radar on the site after two men claimed to have seen disturbances beneath the concrete. The scans showed three unusual shapes underground. For a brief, haunting moment, it felt like the answer was finally within reach. But the landowners refused excavation, and the case remained unresolved. To this day, nothing was ever proven. The media added another layer of torment. National outlets descended on Springfield, cameras flashing, headlines screaming, 3 women vanished without a trace. Families were thrust into the spotlight, every word they spoke dissected, every gesture analyzed. Sherrill's relatives, Susie's friends, Stacy's parents, all lived under the weight of constant attention, yet no closer to closure. Meanwhile, detectives grew frustrated. Thousands of hours, thousands of leads, thousands of interviews, and not a single piece of solid evidence. The case file grew thicker and thicker, but the pages held no answers. Some investigators admitted privately that the case haunted them. At night, others confessed they doubted it would ever be solved. For the families, the pain was relentless. Stacy's mother, Janice, spoke often of her daughter's laughter, her sweetness, the way she dreamed of becoming a teacher. Sherrill's loved ones remembered her hard-working spirit, her love for her daughter Suzie. And Suzie, fiery, rebellious, bold, was frozen in time, remembered only in photographs and memories. Every year, on anniversaries, candlelight vigils were held. Friends, neighbors, and strangers gathered to keep their memory alive. The faces of the Springfield Three became symbols of both hope and heartbreak. Hope that one day answers would come. Heartbreak that they never had. The years rolled on. The 1990s gave way to the 2000s, then the 2010s. Cold case units reviewed the files again and again, hoping new technology might reveal something missed. DNA testing advanced. Digital forensics improved. But the silence remained. Every tip led to a dead end. Every search turned up nothing. And the families aged without answers. Mothers and fathers went to their graves never knowing what happened that night in June 1992. Springfield tried to move forward, but it never forgot. The case left a scar across the city, a reminder that safety can vanish in an instant. That 3 lives could disappear and decades could pass without a single trace of truth. And through it all, one cruel reality echoed louder each year. The longer a case remains unsolved, the harder it becomes to solve. But even after 30 years, there was still one final chapter to be told. 3 women, 1 night, and more than 30 years of silence. The disappearance of Sherrill Levitt, Suzie Streeter, and Stacy McCall has become more than just a crime story. It is a wound that never healed, a mystery that has haunted not just their families, but an entire city. Over the decades, the case has been reopened, re-examined, and re-investigated countless times. Cold case units have combed through old files. Advanced DNA testing has been used on evidence collected long ago. Investigators have tracked new leads, interviewed old suspects, and chased whispers across state lines. But every time, the result has been the same. No bodies, no proof, no closure. Robert Craig Cox, the convicted kidnapper once considered a strong suspect, remains a dark shadow over the case. In later interviews, he claimed the women were dead, buried somewhere in Springfield. He said the case would never be solved. And then, with a cruel smile, he refused to say more. Was he telling the truth? Or was he simply tormenting the families with lies? No one knows. And Cox has never been charged. For Springfield, the legacy of that night is everywhere. To this day, people remember where they were when they first heard the news. They remember the fear of locking doors, of drawing curtains, of realizing safety could be an illusion. For the young women who graduated in 1992, it became a lifelong reminder. Joy can turn to horror in the blink of an eye. The house on East Delmer Street, once a place of laughter and family, became a symbol of loss. For years, people slowed their cars when they passed by, staring at the small home where 3 women vanished into nothing. To this day, many in Springfield cannot look at that house without feeling the chill of June 7, 1992. For the families, the pain has never faded. Birthdays passed. Holidays came and went. Chairs sat empty at tables where laughter once filled the air. Stacy's mother once said, "You wake up every morning hoping this is the day you'll get the call. And every night you go to bed knowing it didn't come." Even after 3 decades, vigils are still held. Candles flicker in the darkness. Names are whispered in prayer. Sherrill, Suzie, Stacy, the Springfield Three. A community refusing to forget. And perhaps that is the cruelest truth of all. That after all these years, no one has been arrested. No one has been charged. No answers have been given. Only questions, echoing louder with every year that passes. What happened inside that house? Who shattered the porch light? What was said in the voicemail that was erased forever? And where are they now? Until those questions are answered, the Springfield Three will remain one of America's most haunting mysteries. 3 women walked into a house on East Delmer Street. None of them ever walked out. And the world is still waiting to know why. And then there's the theory that refuses to die. That the Springfield Three never left the city at all. That their bodies may lie buried beneath concrete, hidden under foundations, sealed away forever in places no one dares to look. The parking garage theory. The whispers of construction workers. The radar scans that showed shapes beneath the ground. If this is true, then the women have been here all along, hidden beneath Springfield itself, as the city continues to build and grow above them.